Hello, beautiful people. I am here to report to you that I have successfully completed my 28-day ritual. And in this video, I am going to share the breakdown and method of how you can do this ritual yourself. And I will also share my experiences and my insights that I've had along the way as best as I can recall them without, really extending the time here that I have with you. And I really am very proud of myself for sticking to the 28-day ritual. When I began this ritual, I will say that my goal, or initially, I wanted to, one, make a strong intention to merge with Urania, to become Urania. Urania is essentially my higher self, who is me, the I am that I am in this moment. However, back in 2018, 2017, not quite sure of the exact year, but around that time, I discovered Urania. I had no idea who Urania was. Mind you, I was really into, I've always been into classical literature, mythology, and such. However, I didn't really know of Urania. And I was out of town at the San Diego Comic-Con, which that's a whole nother aspect of myself. And I was in a used bookstore in San Diego, California. And I came across I think it's like Woman Mysteries, something or another book. But the most important thing is that what got me to buy this book was there was a paragraph about Urania, and Urania was described to be the muse of astronomy, astrology, fortune telling, and essentially the muse of the stars. And she was always depicted with a globe and a compass. And I just really resonated with that. I was just feeling that described everything about me in that one paragraph. And it was funny because I wasn't really a social media person, and I just started my Instagram account, and I didn't the name of my Instagram at that point was Dakini Magic, which is another whole thing. And I just instantly, I don't know, I don't even remember coming up with the name Urania Universe, but that really I felt so drawn to that. And I felt really drawn to Urania. I was like, Urania is me. And I had no idea what that meant. So here I am years later. What was that? I said that was like 20. So that may have been 2016, 2017. So 6, 7 years later. And I am now feeling that Urania literally is me. And so recently I had this whole drive and calling to fully integrate Urania in myself, or essentially to draw down the consciousness of Urania and integrate it with myself, because I would speak to Urania as she was outside of self. And that sat with me away. And I really decided that Urania is me. And I want to, you know, not consecrate, because I don't think that's the right word, but I wanted to really create some sort of ceremony or ritual that honored that merging, that integration. So, and this all happened so naturally, so organically. And that is this 28-day ritual. And with this said, I want to share the basics of the ritual with you so that you can do this on your own. And I know there's one person, two people, maybe multiple people. However, I'm opening myself up to receiving those individuals who are committed, dedicated, devoted to integrating and merging with their higher aspect, their higher self. This whole ritual within itself, the dedication, the receptivity, the connection of just even 28 days to the moon is priestess or priest work. This is the deep, tapping into the deep mystery of oneself, tapping into your innermost desires, your life cycles, your life records. All of this, or this 28-day ritual, is this deep dive into who it is that you are. And it will not only merge you with this deeper yet higher, more connected aspect of yourself, it will also really open you up to your creative gifts, your creative power, so that essentially at the end of the day, you're living your best life. And of course, there are always going to be challenges. There are always going to be, I don't want to say necessarily setbacks, but there's going to be contrast, is the best way to explain that, right? And that challenge, that conflict, that contrast is welcome, because those are opportunities for you to expand, for you to gain a deeper, expansive perspective, and for you to really showcase to yourself, most importantly, how powerful you are and how connected you are, and that you can really overcome anything. And so I'm going to share this 28-day ritual with you. And if you are seeking guidance with me in this process, please reach out to me. You can find my information below. You can go to the information page for this ritual. So I'll have a breakdown of everything that I discuss in this video. You can find it on my website. And if you are seeking guidance, and the guidance with me is going to be ongoing support 24/7. I mean, obviously I sleep, but I have my ongoing clients. They will message me at like midnight. And if I'm not up, which 9 times out of 10, I am up at midnight, I'll get back to them, in the morning or whenever I'm like soonest available. And so if you're seeking that, there are many ways that we can connect. You will also meet with me on Zoom as well. And we will discuss what your intention is, what is best for you in regard to this 28-day ritual, time of day, in the breakdown of what it is that we're doing in the 28-day ritual. I will help you to curate this uniquely for you. So if you're seeking that guidance from me, you can access that information in the link in the description. And you can feel free to email me at connect@Urania Universe. If you're on YouTube or if you're on Instagram, connect with me, send me a private message on Instagram, and that's @Urania_universe. What I am most proud of is my dedication and my devotion. There was one moment, and I feel that it was about halfway through, or maybe not quite halfway, maybe it was 10 or 12 days into the ritual. I was having a particularly intense day. I think I didn't get a lot of sleep. And so I told myself, hey, if you want to get some extra rest, go ahead and sleep in. It's okay. Take the time. This is still honoring self. You don't have to wake up and do this. You can have a day off. And I felt so relieved to have that conversation with myself. Yet, come the following morning, I woke up early and did the ritual. And I'm really proud of myself that I showed up every day for 28 days. I didn't cut any corners. There were multiple days where my daughter woke up early or woke up in the middle of it. And I had to get her breakfast, do, XYZ. And then I would immediately, as soon as I had a moment, I went back to the ritual and completed it. And it could be going into noon that day. And I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm reading my chakras and such. So I'm really very proud of myself in coming out of that. And So that's what I'm most proud of, is my dedication and my devotion, because it was really honorable to myself, to the divine, and just to my spiritual practice and my beliefs and what it is that I do in the world that I'm creating for myself. Also, my biggest challenge was pretty much halfway, or no, I wouldn't even say halfway. Once I got to, I think it was day, let's see, I have my journal right here. So I think it was day 6 or 7. Let's see. All right. So day 8, that was the first time I noted that my chakras were all open and aligned, moving. They were all moving in clockwise, pretty much in the same energy, nothing crazy. Everything seemed harmonized and open. It was a very high day. I felt like literally I was on some sort of drug. It was so euphoric. I noted, when or what the astrology was that day and such. And I was just so, so happy. And it was almost, I was kind of overcharged with energy. I was so excited. And I have been actually, we haven't started the 28-day ritual with my ongoing clients, my consulting or mentoring clients. However, I started reading their chakras remotely just to see if that was a thing and if that could work, which is something that I also will do for you if you're working with me with this as a mentor. And we all had that very first experience. It was like almost overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, like basically the pipes were cleaned, were unclogged, and the faucet was just left running. It was just a lot flowing through. So excited. And then the very next day, I had a closing. My sacral chakra was closed. And there was a bit of that. Actually, was that? Yeah, so it was that day where everything was open. Then what I really feel is that energetically, and something probably within my unconscious, like once everything was open, because once everything was open, I also had this feeling of like, oh shit, everything's open. I feel really vulnerable right now. Like, actually, do I want to do this? I feel really open. I feel vulnerable, unprotected. And the next day, my sacral chakra was closed, which is my sacral and my roots and my solar plexus are consistently the ones that are closed. And I intuitively had this feeling that it was closed because I was unconsciously protecting myself. And I also noticed that in my mentoring clients that I have already started to measure their chakras from a distance. The first time the chakras are open, everything is unclogged, everything's flowing. We're on a high, but it's a lot. We're excited, but also kind of apprehensive about it. The following day, that chakra, whatever the main chakra was blocked, was closed again. And it was almost a feeling of, oh wait, I don't know about this. So it's like our energy, our aura, or whatever it is, this aspect of ourself energetically is trying to protect ourselves. And after that, my chakras opened back up, and they were open for a good 2 weeks. And then came, it's interesting, I receive and ask of the divine, of the cosmos, what the oracle is for the week, right? Because I do my cosmic climates. I'm sure if you're watching this, you watch my cosmic climates, and I present an oracle for the week. So the oracle for this particular week was protection. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And it fit into something else I was connecting with. And so we received it was the lion, it was the herb rue, and the keyword was protection. So I was like, okay, noted. And I was just talking with one of my mentor clients about protection. And so it really resonated with our conversation. I was like, this is really interesting, the synchronicities. And that's something that when you're in this process of the 28-day ritual, you're opening up your chakras. you really notice and are very sensitive to the subtle energies and the signs and synchronicities. And so this week, the week of protection, was a week in which my anxiety, well, I will say I came last because I was pretty grounded. My daughter is 3 years old and she's in this phase of everything, the monsters, right? There's a monster here. You know, I don't like this. I'm afraid of this. And she's very open and vocal about what she's afraid of. She's to the point where she tells me to move whatever it is because she has a thing with faces, which I think is funny because she has a Gemini full moon and Mercury on her ascendant in Sagittarius. And so she has a thing about she sees faces in everything. And so some faces she doesn't like, even if it's people, certain people's faces she doesn't like, which is interesting. So she has me move them. So she was really dialed up with her fears. Then my partner, her father, was also really dialed up passively internally with his anxiety, right? His depression, you could say, and maybe fears. And I was so open in a sense of, and this was a lesson maybe I need to, I know grounding is a thing that I need more to pay more attention to and to be more connected to my body as far as sensing my own energy and creating that energetic shield, being that my sacral, my root are the main ones that if I'm out of balance, those are the ones that are closed. And this even goes back to childhood. So that's the thing when you work with me one-on-one in this guidance, we'll talk even deeply about, you know, what's going on in your childhood or in your relationships. Where is this coming from? What's the root of this with whatever chakra is closed, right? And so, you know, long story short, there were a lot of fears coming up and there were things going on astrologically, but I feel that it was more of an energetic thing because it wasn't just us. There were other people, clients, people in my community that were reaching out like, what is going on? And this was leading up to the full moon in Sagittarius. And so long story short, in the midst of the monsters and all of that, I'm still doing my ritual and I will share my method. I was doing a particular breath exercise that I just naturally organically began to do where I am squatting very low to the ground. I have my head tucked down, my back is arched, and I'm breathing up my spine and breathing down my spine and visualizing that. I had been doing that for like a week or a week and a half. And in the midst of all the fears and anxieties, and I'm taking in all of this energy and my own anxieties are coming forth. I end up having a nightmare where they're at the end of it. And it was like the dream was a very sexual dream. And it was like very weird because I was in full, you know, transparency. I was with my ex-husband. I was trying to have sex with him. We could never have sex because we were always interrupted. And then we were in this weird place and a friend was there. And then both of us were trying to have sex with him. And it was just weird, but it was very sexual. And again, my closed chakras when I am in a space of fear and anxiety are my sacral and my root, hands down. So there's a sexual thing there and there's a security thing there, which that makes sense because of experiences I've had in my life and with my family and my mother and my grandmother and what they've experienced. And so there was a dream in which basically I woke up, but I didn't wake up, right? So it was a dream within a dream. And once I woke up to the dream within a dream, right? So I was still sleeping and dreaming. I was battling this demon that was a snake, but had like a human head. And it was really weird. It had this weird, long, wrinkly neck, but a snake body. And I was just like shaking the shit out of the snake, and the snake bit me. And once it bit me, I woke up in a panic attack. And fortunately, I didn't necessarily panic. My body was in panic mode, but I knew in my mind, because I've had panic attacks before, I was like, this is a panic attack. I'm just going to relax myself. I'm going to breathe through it. And I breathed through it and I was going to go back to bed because this is literally at dawn. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. the sun was barely over the horizon. And I went to lay back down after calming myself down, and my heart started pounding again, where I was going to have another panic attack. And I was like, I can't stay in this bed. I can't lay here. I literally put my robe on, like nothing but my robe on, and came out to my backyard, started doing my fascial maneuvers or fascia maneuvers, which, you know, is the movements with the breath work, which I do every day before my ritual. Went into the grass, started doing that, got down low, started breathing really heavily and chanting Kali's mantra, which is Om King Kali Kaliye Namaha, Om King Kali Kataye Namaha, Om King Kali Kataye Namaha. And it was like to like calm down. I never chant Kali's mantra unless I really need it. Like I need a tower moment. I need something cut, severed, and done. And this was probably the third time that I've really seriously chanted. Like I just said it now, but that doesn't count, right? It was the third time. And I learned this mantra like 5-6 years ago. And what I got out of that, and after I calmed myself down, I had some tea and did some more maneuvers and then went back into bed and laid down. And I was good. I was very, you know, awake. And I still did my 28-day ritual, did my ritual that morning. Cause that was, like I said, it was at 5 a.m. So I laid down and I still woke up and did my thing, which I laid down for an hour. I didn't really sleep, but I just felt rested. And then I got up and did it. Ooh. So again, very proud of myself. Excuse me. And what really came through, when I did my chakra reading that day, I knew that, or basically the reading was like my root and my sacral were blocked, were closed. And I was like, that makes sense. I was going to be shocked if actually, were they closed? They may have been open, and it was actually, no, they were still open. It was a couple days later, because that was on a Monday and it wasn't till Saturday. So that was my introduction to the week. And then it wasn't until Saturday that my chakras were closed. But in that week, there was still, because I was still in a lot of, that just brought up a lot of anxiety and fears. And then there was a lot going on in my home, and it was like a wax and wane where it was good. And then it came right back up. And then by Saturday, I caught myself in past fears and anxieties, and my sacral and my root chakras closed, which my perception of that was out of protection. And I have a whole breakdown of why I think that was the case, but I'm not going to do that here because I'm already pretty long into this video. Okay. So my thoughts on that was that was a Kundalini rising. I absolutely feel that, because when I was doing the breathing and I realized I was breathing up and down my spine, I started, and in the book that I'm reading right now, actually, do I have it? No, I don't have it here. Eastern Body, Western Mind by Anita Judith. Anyways, I'll put it in the description because that is one of the books that's been very helpful with this journey. I started reading that. It was a gift from a friend, and I was reading about Kundalini rising and just with the balancing of the chakras and such. And I was reading that, I was doing the breathing, and then like almost 2 weeks later, a week and a half later, this happens. I made the connection there. So that essentially was the challenge. And I would say on the other end of this, where I am now, I feel very proud of myself. And in the same breath, I'm sitting with this feeling of, because I always communicate with Urania as something out of myself. I always look to Urania as my higher self. And I'm like, Urania, what do I do? Now that I'm Urania, I'm just in the space of who is it that I consult with, that I counsel with. And I have my own human counsel, but in spirit. So now I am making the intention, I'm adjusting my perspective inwards and to really take deep pauses to connect and attune and receive the guidance of Urania, which is the I am that I am. My method for the 28-day ritual is, in my opinion, very simple and straightforward. There are three parts to this. And I like to consider this to be a living ritual. And what I mean by a living ritual is essentially within the 28 days, the ritual evolves within itself organically. And so you may start out with, say, these specific mantras in the beginning of the ritual. Then by the end of the ritual, there are different mantras or affirmations that you begin to say and chant in your ritual for that particular point in time. And so, my biggest thing and what helps me when it comes to structure is that I really have to, I like to, and I have to have flow and I have to really honor my organic energies. Again, the three main parts. The first part is the integration of the higher self. The second is the physical movement and the breath work. And the third is the chakra pendulum readings. And you want to structure your ritual, your 28-day ritual around those aspects. So you want to, one, be consistent. So therefore, doing it every day at the same time is essential. That is essentially what a ritual is. It's the same time, it's the same way every single time for a certain duration of time. And of course, like I said, allow yourself to be organic. And so ideally, someday, or ideally, I was starting my ritual at the same time every day, say like 7 a.m. Sometimes I would wake up at 6:30 a.m. Sometimes I will do it at 8 a.m. You know, obviously nothing's perfect. Nothing is exactly the same every single time, but the intention is what is important. And to essentially, even if say I woke up at 7:30, or if my daughter woke up at 7 and I had to alter some things, I made sure when it came to my own focus, aside from my daughter and her well-being, that next focus was on the ritual at the very beginning of the day. So my recommendation is starting your day with the ritual. However, depending on your schedule, it might be more beneficial for you to begin the ritual in the evening and say your mantras again in the morning, just to really set the tone and the vibration. And so the first step when I wake up, and my ideal time was 7 a.m. to start the ritual. When I wake up, I would begin with movement and breath work. Personally, for me, what is very simple and something that I have no problem doing every single day, I still do it every day. Before I did the ritual, I was doing it pretty much every day, is fascial maneuvers or fascia maneuvers. And I will link below the standard full body reset that is 15 minutes. I would do that full body reset, which integrates moving and stretching out the fascia with breath work and moving the breath throughout your body. And there's also numerological elements to that too. And so I would begin that every day with my beginning the ritual with that every day. And again, it didn't even take 15 minutes because I was doing it on my own. So it probably took like 10 minutes. And I would do a little extra movements, whatever I felt in my body that was needed some attention. I would do a maneuver for that and do the breath work for that. And so again, I'll link below the 15-minute full body reset. But the goal is, if you don't do that specifically, because you can do your own thing, the goal is to move the body with the breath. And so you can do yoga if there's or not necessarily intense, but intentional breathing within the movement. That's essential. That is key. Next, I would light my candles, I would light incense, and then I would adorn myself with my ritual oil. So the ritual oil perfume is something that happened organically. And I was so just in a very good, I was just really happy when I thought about it because I had been really wanting this oil. And my daughter's father bought it for me around Mother's Day. So I believe I got it right before the ritual started, or maybe after, but I didn't start putting it on until probably a week within the ritual. And the oil to me just felt so, I love patchouli. Whenever I put on patchouli, I feel this vibration of royalty or regality, or just there's something noble and prestige about patchouli. And this particular oil, I wish I had it here, but it is patchouli, cedarwood, and rose oil together. And in the bottle is red tiger's eye. So it's charged and infused with the red tiger's eye. And it's a roller, right? So I would just roll it on my wrist. And I have it on my wrist right now. So it's so yummy. And that really helped to ground me into my body and also just activate my senses. And red tiger's eye corresponds to the sacral and the root. And as I mentioned before, those were the two chakras that were very consistently closed for me. And that just intuitively came through organically in the ritual. And there was another thing I noticed within the ritual, not necessarily in the ritual space, but throughout my day, I was drinking this cold pressed beet juice, and I had to have it, and it just would really increase my vibration. And again, there was a lot of focus for me personally just on the root and sacral chakra. And so I know by doing these particular actions and just even unconsciously, but once the awareness was there, it amplified it. I knew that was an intake, an experience that was opening those chakras that were initially closed. So yes, after I did the movement and breath work, I then light candles, incense, and ritual oil to set the space. And essentially, that was the beginning of the ritual, the lighting or the activation of what it is that I was intending to do. After I did that, I would play my singing bowl and meditate. So just sit in silence, or, I will also add that in addition to my intention of integrating with my higher self, I also was intending to really embody and welcome in the flow of abundance. I got a ritual kit from Goddess Provisions, and the kit for that month was abundance. That was the theme. And I really resonated with that and wanted that in my life at the time. And so, in addition to integrating with my higher self, that was another intention for the ritual. So I would play the singing bowls. I would meditate on the flow of abundance, what that feels like, what that looks like, how I would love to experience that, and just seeing that all around me. Then I would say my mantras and affirmations. The mantras and affirmations, I pretty much wrote those, created those on my own with some inspiration from other mantras that I've seen here and there. But for the most part, those just came intuitively and I created them on my own. And I feel that is going to be the most potent, right? So you might start off of, finding mantras that align with, say, if you're trying to welcome in love, if you're trying to be more confident or manifest more money and abundance, you can start out with a basic list of mantras and, integrate what feels good there. And then naturally you will begin to create your own, and that will grow and evolve throughout the 28 days. After I played the singing bowls, meditated, and said my mantras, and I feel really grounded and connected and in the space and feel the energy lifted around me, I would then journal. Journal what I experienced the day before, journal what happened in the space of meditation or what I felt when I woke up and such. Whatever I felt to write in the moment is what I wrote. Then once I journaled, I would take a reading of my chakras, and I would do that by way of pendulum, see what was open, what was closed, and such. Finally, once I journaled, I would note also, the reading of my chakras. Once I did that, sometimes I would journal after I wrote the chakra, say if there was something interesting, like, oh, this is open today, or this is closed today, or what changed, within the past 24 hours, I would journal that. Then once I feel complete, I would close my space in the ritual with just gratitude and thanking the divine, thanking Urania, thanking, the cosmic energy or source or whoever it is, spirit guides, ancestors, and such. So that essentially is 6-step process in the actual ritual. So I think we've covered everything. One of the things too, within the 28-day rituals, I like to be mindful that I integrate or stimulate all 7 chakras. So some element of the ritual will stimulate a specific chakra, which will also invite openness and harmonization. And so with that said, that will happen naturally. You don't want to overthink. You don't want to overthink anything within this process. So again, if you want to have this all clear in front of you in writing, go to my website, uraniauniverse.com, and you can find the breakdown of the 28-day ritual. And as I mentioned, I invite anyone who is seeking guidance and mentoring during this 28-day process. We can create the ritual together, and you can have my ongoing support for this throughout the 28 days. And if you're interested in that, definitely reach out to me via my website, or you can email me at connect@uraniauniverse.com. Thank you, everyone, for your support throughout this process. And always, I look forward to connecting with you more. Have a beautiful, beautiful day.